Hey guys, and welcome back. Good to see you again in our new, modern, and amazing website tutorial that I have started recently. And in the last video, I have given you a preview of the website that we are going to create. So before moving any further, I would like to tell you something that I'm not going to create this website in the most traditional or more conventional manner. That is, first we create the HTML page, then we go by the CSS. So instead what I'm going to do is I'm going to create some very basic or some very helpful or very useful CSS classes that we are going to use throughout the HTML page, so that once these classes are ready in the CSS, we can go ahead and use them in the HTML part as and when we are defining the different sections, so that we can complete section by section. I mean to say, that is, I will create the HTML part of one section, then I will move to the CSS and complete that section in the CSS before jumping to the next one, so that it is easier for you to understand and easier for you to follow. That is, in one video we are going to cover just one section, and I have tried my best to keep all the sections independent of each other, so that, let's say, you don't want the text section, then you don't have to follow the text section video. You can skip that and you can follow the next of the videos, and the website won't have any issue, because I have tried my best to keep all the sections independent of each other. So yeah, that's it. So let's get into the coding. I have created this starter files folder in which I have kept all the images that I have used. So you don't have to use the same images that I have used. It is totally upon you. If you want, you can use some other images. That does not matter. The thing that matters is you will have to be very careful with the name and the extension of the pictures that you are using. And yeah, that's it. Now let's create a text document, a simple text document, and then rename it to index.html. Make sure to remove the .txt extension so that it becomes a HTML file. Now we need to open it in any of the text editor that you have. I'm using Sublime Text. You can use any other text editor. Then create one more text document, a simple text document. Rename it to style.css and remove the txt extension. Okay, so this will create a CSS file. Open it in the text editor as well. So as I have briefed you already, I am going to start with the CSS, and I am going to define all the basic and all the helpful CSS classes that we are going to use throughout in the HTML page. So let's start with that. So let's define some classes for the font. Let me just give you a brief introduction about how we refer to the classes in CSS. If you know it, it's very good. If you don't know it, I'll just give a small brief introduction. To access any class in CSS, we use our dot selector. That is, if the name of the class is font-access, we need to use a dot before the name of the class to access it. If you want to access an ID, then we will have to use a hash symbol before the name of the ID. And similarly, if we have to access any HTML tag, then we don't have to use any dot or hash. We simply write the name of the tag and it will be referenced. So anyways, it's a little bit more complex, a little bit more complicated than just using simple symbols that we are going to see in the subsequent videos. So don't worry about that. Let's just finish this font. Then font size 1.2 rem, exclamation mark important. We use this exclamation mark important so that any other definition of the same class will be overridden by this one. So in the same way, I'm going to define some more font classes with different font sizes. So just follow the video. Alright, now we need to have some media queries so that we can reduce the size of these fonts when the size of the screen changes. Because in small screen, we don't want to have too big font size for any text. So copy all the font classes, paste them inside, and then just let me change the font size of each font class. So in short, when the size of the screen width falls below 1024 pixel, then the font size of font-access class will change from 1.2 rem to 1 rem. Similarly, for the rest of the classes, the font size is going to reduce. So we are going to do the same with different screen size, so that in different screen size we have different font size. So copy this entire block, paste it, and then just make the appropriate changes the way I am making. Alright, do it once again for 768 pixels. Then once more for 640 pixels. And we can remove all these classes except font-x3, because I don't think I want to reduce the font size beyond that except for this class. Then let me create a heading class. Margin will be 0 and line height will be normal. Okay. Then let's define some classes for margin. M-0 is for margin 0 all around it. It's very simple. The name of the class is very intuitive. Then let me copy it and create more classes in the same way. Okay. My-1 means this class is going to have margin definitions along the y-axis, which means this will have margin along the top and the bottom of the class. So margin top and bottom will be defined in this. Let's create some more classes in the same way. Then we are going to have mx-1 just the way we have my-1. Mx-1 is going to have margin along the x-axis, which means margin will be on the right and the left. Okay. Then in the same way, let's define some padding classes. Alright, then dot no space. As the name specifies, this class will make the padding and margin as 0. Then let's define some of the basic HTML tags. It's very simple. You just have to follow the video. I don't think I have to explain anything here. It's too trivial. In HTML, overflow Y to scroll, because if there is overflow in the y-axis, then we want to have a scroll bar, but if there is an overflow in the x-axis, we want it to be hidden, because we are not going to have any overflow because of the content, but we might get overflow in the x-axis because of the margin or the padding, so we don't want to see that. That's why it's hidden. Then let's define the font color and font size for the HTML and body. And the font family is Poppins. This is a Google font. To access this font, we are going to have a link in the HTML. We will have that later. Okay. Then the anchor tag or the E tag. Remove the outline so that the links don't have any outline by default. Text decoration as none because we don't want the underline when we hover over it. Cursor should be a pointer. Then some more general classes like wrapper. Wrapper is going to be the wrapper class for all of the sections that we will define. So it will be a block. It will take the width of 100%. No margin and no padding in the wrapper. Inside the wrapper, we might have different padding or margin depending upon our need, but the wrapper will not have any margin on padding. Then text align to left. Then let's define a container class, and it will have a padding of 6 rem all around it. Then let me write some media queries for container, because in small screens we don't want to waste too much space in padding. We want to reduce the size of the padding in small screens. Alright, and I have considered 4 breakpoints, that is 1024 pixel, 900 pixel, 768 pixel and 640 pixel. That is just intuitive. If you want to have more breakpoints, you can have more. If you want to have less, you can have less. And even if you want to change this max width to something else, you can do that. That is totally up to you. Then let's define some classes for the background. Then some classes for the width. These classes will be used for the div elements, and when we use these classes with the div elements, they will get the width which is specified here. So W-30 will get a width of 30%. So let's say there is one div element which has this class W-30. So it will mean that that div element will get the 30% of the width of its container. So in the same way, let's define the rest of the width classes. Then as usual, let me define the media queries to take care of the responsiveness of these width classes. Below 1024 pixel, I have increased the width of the W70 class to 80% because in small screen, we don't want to waste too much space around the element, so it's better to give it more width. Then below 900 pixel, I have increased the width even further to 90%. Similarly, below 768 pixel width, I have increased the width of the W30 class to 70%. And the rest of the classes will have 90% width, so that we take up the 90% of the available width of the container. We don't want to waste too much width in small screens, and we will try to align all the elements vertically instead of horizontally in small screens. Anyways, then let's define some text classes. These are also very trivial. Then let's define some flex properties. I'm going to use these flex classes a lot in the subsequent videos. You are going to see this because these flex properties are very helpful in creating the desired or the required design that you want. It's very easy to use with the flex property. So d-flex-c will have display as flex. Then flex direction to column. Justify content to center. So this will mean if we use d-flex-c class with any element, then whatever element that we define under it, they all will be stacked in one column in different rows, which means they will be aligned in different rows in one single column. In the same way, let's define d-flex-r. In this one, we are going to have the flex direction as row. In effect, this class is going to make sure that the elements which are defined under this class will be aligned in different columns but in a single row. Like they will be in a single row but next to each other, or you can say that they will be aligned horizontally next to each other. Then let's have this overlay class to have a slight grayish photo effect over the pictures. RGBA is very simple, that is we define the RGB part, and the last one is the alpha element defines the level of opacity. So all 0 means it is a black color and 0.6 opacity makes it a kind of a gray. Anyways, with this we have finished the basic or the helpful CSS classes. Now we can go ahead and start with the HTML file.